I mean, there's no conspiracy here. It's simply another effect of the coronavirus.
According to Matt Finn, chief economist at Old National, there's about $48 billion of coinage in the United States, but right now it may be hard to come by. Finn says that's because the U.S. Mint has slowed production of coins because of the coronavirus. Plus, fewer people have been using coins at places like vending machines, laundromats, and car washes. The coin circulation depends on those places regularly depositing coins into the bank.
The bank sends it to the Federal Reserve that redistributes it based on need. Well, the problem is when people stop going to those places and people stop going to the bank, all that velocity of money, all that exchange of coinage slowed down.
Finn compares this shortage to the toilet paper shortage we saw earlier this year. When people change their spending habits rather quickly, the system pays the price.
What economists hope is that when the country opens up again and when businesses get back to normal, the problem should fix itself. But until that happens, it could get worse.
Now, Finn says the Federal Reserve has started a U.S. coin task force to accelerate the circulation of coinage. Now, we asked what you could do to help out. He advises paying with exact change whenever you can. Randy.
Working on a coronavirus vaccine. Charlie D'Agata is in London, where the world's leading clinical trials might be at risk.
Intelligence agencies say the hackers have been at it for months, trying to steal vital vaccine research. Finally, the British government said enough.
I think it's important to call it out because we're not going to wait until there is harm. It's clearly wrong, contrary to international law.
Targeting labs and medical facilities in the UK, US, and Canada, identifying the group as APT-29 for Advanced Persistent Threat, codename Cozy Bear. The former director of GCHQ, Britain's version of the NSA, Robert Hannigan.
And let's be clear, these aren't common criminals. We're talking about state-backed hackers.
They are state-based actors. And very often they're people in state agencies under a different name. So there's a direct link between these groups and the Russian state.
Cozy Bear has been accused of hacking into the DNC and stealing emails ahead of the 2016 election. Both the NSA and British agents say the group is almost certainly an arm of Moscow's intelligence services. Russia is suffering from one of the worst COVID outbreaks in the world. Plenty of incentive to find a vaccine and pull off an international coup. The Kremlin has denied any wrongdoing, and as any vaccine will be shared worldwide. One Russian pharmaceutical CEO said, "Why would we steal what's going to be given to us anyway?"
These hacking allegations come at a critical time. Important developments about the Oxford vaccine are about to be made public. British officials won't say whether any information was stolen, but they say no damage has been done.
City. This amid outrage in New York after plainclothes officers jumped out of an unmarked minivan and suddenly arrested a protester on the street. Here's CBS's Errol Barnett.
Today, Oregon's governor called federal officers clashing with protesters in Portland an occupying force. The heavily armed agents using tear gas to protect a government courthouse. Governor Brown says they will begin a phased withdrawal beginning tomorrow.
They created havoc and chaos. The good news is that Trump's troops are leaving downtown Portland.
But today, President Trump insists their job is not finished.
We're not leaving until they've secured their city.
The Trump administration announced Wednesday it is expanding Operation Legend, sending additional federal agents outside of Oregon, it says, to combat upticks in violence in Cleveland, Milwaukee, and Detroit. Detroit's chief of police welcomes the federal support to combat violent crime, but says he doesn't need their help with protesters.
We never requested support for any protest-related activity. We do support anything to reduce violence in our city.
Concerns around protest policing are heightening across the country, like this arrest of a protester by undercover NYPD officers yesterday who placed her in an unmarked vehicle.
I think it was the wrong time and the wrong place to effectuate that arrest.
Now, currently, there's no plan to deploy federal agents here to New York City. where demonstrations are planned for what will be a 64th night since George Floyd was killed. And a quick note about Seattle. That city's mayor confirming that federal agents sent there, Nora, have already demobilized and left.
All right, that's big news. Errol Barnett, thank you.
More and more of the nation's governors are issuing mask mandates, including most recently Montana's Steve Bullock, Alabama's Kay Ivey, Colorado's Jared Polis, and Arkansas's Asa Hutchinson. But Georgia's Brian Kemp is moving in the other direction. The Republican governor issued an executive order late on Wednesday barring mayors in his state from mandating the use of face coverings, and the reaction was swift. The mayor of Savannah, Van Johnson, a Democrat who issued a mask mandate in his city on July 1st, said on Twitter, quote, "It is officially official. Governor Kemp does not give a damn about us." On Thursday, Kemp announced he is suing Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms over her city's mask mandate, saying it violated his executive order. Just hours before he issued that order, Kemp greeted President Donald Trump in Atlanta, first with his mask off, and then he quickly put it back on.
Dr. Anthony Fauci. He's the nation's top infectious disease expert with decades of service in public health, a member of the Trump administration's coronavirus task force. But the White House is now treating Dr. Anthony Fauci as if he were a political opponent, launching efforts to discredit Fauci's prior statements on the coronavirus. President Trump Monday morning retweeting messages critical of Fauci, and the White House putting together a document obtained by ABC News that says several White House officials are concerned about the number of times Dr. Fauci has been wrong on things. But the list includes many quotes that are not complete or were from early on in the outbreak when less was known. Two senior-level White House sources tell ABC Fauci has at times been referred to among Trump aides as Dr. Gloom and Doom. Last week, the president said this on Fox News.
Dr. Fauci's a nice man, but he's made a lot of mistakes.
This as the president for months has repeated falsehoods about the coronavirus and downplayed the pandemic here in the U.S. A New York Times Siena College poll in June found that 67% of Americans said they trust Fauci for accurate information on the coronavirus. Just 26% said they trusted the president. Joe Biden said in a tweet Monday, quote, "Donald Trump needs to spend less time playing golf and more time listening to experts like Dr. Fauci." Fauci said last week he had not seen the president in person since June 2nd. The White House press secretary said on Monday that President Trump appreciates the advice he gets from Dr. Fauci, but she added that Fauci is just one of many on the coronavirus task force giving the president advice. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
That they were known for so long.
Yeah, follows decades of opposition to it. The team officially changing its name, announced just in the last hour. CNN's Andy Scholes joins us now to explain. So Andy, they've announced there will be a change, but if I'm correct, they have not announced what it will be changed to.
That's correct, Jim. Good morning to you and Poppy. They have not announced the new name yet, but the team put out a statement just moments ago saying after reviewing the name and logo of the Redskins, they are deciding to retire it after using it for the past 87 years. Now, the team also saying in that statement that they sent out that Dan Snyder and Coach Rivera are working closely to develop a new name and design approach that will enhance the standing of our proud, tradition-rich franchise and inspire our sponsors, fans, and community for the next 100 years. Now, no date, as I just mentioned, has been given for when the team's going to announce the new name and logo. Teams report to training camps 2 weeks from tomorrow, so they don't have a lot of time to get this done. And you might remember back in 2013, Snyder once said, you can print it in all caps, "I'm never changing the name." But after growing pressure from sponsors like FedEx and Nike, Snyder has decided it's finally time to make the move. Now, the nickname Red Tails has been gaining some steam on social media. The Red Tails were Tuskegee Airmen, a group of African-American fighter pilots back in World War II. You may remember a movie was made about them back in 2012. A fan made up this mock logo right here. It's become pretty popular as a potential name. It's the betting favorite online. Right behind Red Tails as betting favorite is the Presidents. Others that have been circulating, Red Wolves. They have a pretty cool logo as well. The Red Hawks is also out there. Another name being potentially as a possibility is the Washington Warriors. Daniel Snyder already actually owns the rights to that, but people say, that might be too similar in name and imagery and something they'd want to avoid right now. And, you know, guys, I don't think you can go wrong with the red tails. It's a pretty cool logo. It honors the military.
Yeah.
If it was my choice, that'd be it.
Designer tweeted that he was running in the 2020 election. The effort seems to have quietly ceased. West had hired advisor Steve Kramer to get him on the ballot by gathering signatures in 2 key states, Florida and South Carolina. But on Tuesday, Kramer told New York Magazine, "He's out. I'll let you know what I know once I get all our stuff canceled." West has yet to confirm or deny the report. The billionaire made global headlines when he tweeted on July 4th that he would run for president in November. His announcement was questioned and even mocked as a publicity stunt for his brand, but he told Forbes days later he was serious. According to West, his White House organizational model would be based on the fictitious Marvel secret country of Wakanda from Black Panther. He told Forbes, "I'm going to use the framework of Wakanda right now because it's the best explanation of what our design group is going to feel like in the White House." He also said he was officially done with Donald Trump, of whom he has been a diehard supporter for years, saying, "I'm taking off the red hat with this interview." West's 11th hour White House bid meant he had little to no time to gather enough signatures in order to file with the Federal Election Commission to appear on any state ballot. For more on this story, head to THR.com. For The Hollywood Reporter News, I'm Tiffany Taylor.
Cannon, the actor, rapper, and television host, fired by Viacom overnight following racial and anti-Semitic comments he made on his podcast. Eva Pilgrim has those details for us. Good morning, Eva.
Good morning, Robin. Cannon has been on social media tweeting both messages of support and attack. The network saying they fired Cannon after he promoted hateful speech on his podcast on YouTube. Overnight backlash for Nick Cannon after these controversial comments on his podcast, Cannon's Class.
We are the Semitic people. When we are the same people that who they want to be, that's our birthright.
Viacom CBS announcing they are cutting ties with the comedian.
But what about the big ear corn?
Who they have had a decades-long relationship with.
So the people that don't have it are a little, and I'm gonna say this carefully, are a little less.
In the June 30th episode of his podcast, Cannon speaking to former Public Enemy member Professor Griff.
The only way that they can act is evil. The only way they have to rob, steal, rape, kill, and
fight or flight, okay,
in order to survive.
Exactly.
So then these people who didn't have what we had, and when I say we, I speak of the melanated people.
Right.
They had to be savages.
The 39-year-old host facing criticism for his comments, also accused of perpetuating an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory.
The Rothschilds, centralized banking, the bloodlines that control everything even outside of America.
Cannon, who most recently hosted the Fox show The Masked Singer, taking to social media Monday to explain, saying, "Anyone who knows me knows that I have no hate in my heart nor malice intentions." But Cannon stopped short of apologizing, instead saying, "I hold myself accountable for this moment and take full responsibility." Cannon's long-running show Wild and Out airs on VH1. Viacom CBS saying in a statement overnight that they condemn bigotry of any kind. And Viacom telling ABC News, "We are deeply troubled that Nick has failed to acknowledge or apologize for perpetuating anti-Semitism, and we are terminating our relationship with him." Robin.
All righty.
Single day, and for the 4th day in a row, more than 1,000 deaths have been reported.
New Orleans is shutting down bars and banning its famous alcohol to-go drinks as cases surge there. The mayor says lines have become gathering places with many people not wearing masks.
The LAPD losing its first officer to the virus. Officer Valentin Martinez had been on the force for 13 years. Mayor Eric Garcetti there ordering flags to be lowered in Martinez's honor. All of this coming as the Trump administration makes a push to reopen schools. ABC's Stephanie Ramos is outside a school in New York City with the very latest on that. Stephanie, good morning to you.
Whit, good morning. So many schools across the country, including right here in New York City, are working to figure out a plan for the fall. Will kids physically go to school, take online classes, or will it be a hybrid? Well, some doctors are saying that should be determined by the number of COVID cases across the country, and they're urging officials to shut down the U.S. again. This morning, new images from inside a COVID ICU in the Rio Grande Valley as the situation in Texas turns desperate. This hospital on the verge of making decisions based on patients' chances of survival.
And we don't have the resources to be helping them.
With deaths and hospitalizations rising in many states across the country, 150 doctors signed this public letter telling America's decision makers that the U.S. needs to shut down again amid the surge. Dr. Anne Ramoyne signed that letter.
That we all opened up too soon. We underestimated the virus. We underestimated spread. We really are on track to lose many, many more American lives.
Despite the surge in cases, the CDC laying out its new guidelines for schools nationwide, making a push to get kids back into the classroom. This just a week after President Trump criticized the original guidelines as too tough and expensive. The CDC recommending schools keep kids in pods, use social distancing, and recommends students and staff wear face coverings. Parents facing a tough decision.
I don't feel comfortable with my kids going to school as of yet because this virus is still not over yet.
I believe they need to be in school. More one-on-one, more interaction with the other kids.
But some school districts like Houston pushing back the start of the school year. The state of Texas, one of the hardest hit states, seeing more than 8,000 daily cases. The Austin Convention Center turned into a field hospital. For Alfonso Rodriguez, COVID has cost him his parents and brother, losing them within days.
And we were sitting there and they told me that our mom had passed away while we were doing arrangements for my brother.
Cases also soaring in Florida, a record number of hospitalizations with cases of the virus over 400,000. In Lake Worth, Anadelia Diaz lost her 29-year-old daughter, a healthcare worker, to COVID. She leaves behind 3 young children.
It's something that takes everything away from you. But the kids keep me motivated, because they remind me a lot about her, and I see a lot of her in them.
The state of California also setting records, a record number of deaths in a single day for the second day in a row. On Friday, health officials reporting 159 deaths, bringing the state's total to a little over 8,000. Overnight, New Orleans cracking down as cases soar, closing bars, while the state of Mississippi taking action too, restricting social gatherings. The nation's top infectious disease specialist, Dr. Anthony Fauci, says the U.S. is not near the end of this pandemic, but there are signs of recovery. In a grueling battle against the coronavirus, ER Dr. Grant Lashley fought for his life on a ventilator for 39 days, getting out of the ICU.
You got this. You can do it. Breathe.
And spending the past 6 weeks at this Houston rehab facility.
Hey, kids.
On Friday, finally reuniting with his kids and heading home.
I couldn't have told you 3 to 4 weeks ago this would ever happen.
No.
I was really concerned for myself.
So great to see those reunions. As of right now, as of August 1st, Massachusetts and D.C. will implement travel restrictions for people traveling from COVID hotspots. They're supposed to quarantine for 14 days.
Freedom died just hours apart, and now the two friends being honored together. ABC's David Wright has more.
In life, they fought side by side for the same righteous cause. This week, at the Willie A. Watkins Funeral Home in Atlanta, they were side by side again, comrades at arms, at rest at last. Congressman John Lewis and the Reverend C.T. Vivian, both acolytes of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., heeding his call for nonviolent confrontation in the fight for civil rights. Lewis was the youngest speaker in the March on Washington.
My friends, let us not forget that we are involved in a serious social revolution.
Vivian, a close friend and lieutenant of Dr. King's. Both would go on to win the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Vivian became one of Atlanta's most prominent preachers.
Rosa Parks said of him, even after things had supposedly been taken care of and we had our rights, he was still out there, inspiring the next generation including me.
Lewis, a titan of the Congress.
He is known as the conscience of the United States Congress, still speaking his mind on issues of justice and equality.
Significantly, both men received the honor from America's first black president, Obama's election marking a fulfillment of their lifelong fight. Both Lewis and Vivian were bloodied in battle during the Freedom Rides. Vivian on the courthouse steps in Selma.
Judge, we're willing to be beaten for democracy.
Lewis on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Later, they were pallbearers together for Coretta Scott King, and now the nation pays tribute to them. Even though the two men died hours apart on the same day, Congressman Lewis's family delayed his memorial so as not to detract from Reverend Vivian's service. Vivian's casket taken by horse-drawn carriage to the tomb of Dr. King. He lay in state at the Georgia State Capitol. Lewis will now lie in state at the United States Capitol Rotunda next week.
Our thanks to David Wright for that. And we will, of course, have coverage of this weekend's remembrances right here on ABC News Live. And before we go, a fitting image of the day. John Lewis's image projected onto Richmond's statue of Robert E. Lee, BLM for Black Lives Matter, on the side of the Confederate general's steed. A powerful juxtaposition as our nation reckons with its past. And a look now at the Capitol Rotunda, where, as David mentioned, Lewis's casket will lie in state. The stage now set for the going home of a national hero.